So, just to recap, we left off with Charles I, who had a majority of the power over the country just as monarchs, including his dad, James I, had before. However, Charles took it one step further, implementing personal rule which appeared similar to absolutism. This caused discontent and eventual civil war, with the royalists losing the battle and the fate of Charles in the hands of the army and parliament. Then the regicide occurred. With the monarch executed, for the first time power did not lie with a king or queen.
Those who were left in the parliament, the members who had agreed to the regicide, formed what was known as the Rump Parliament. This was to be where the majority of power lay for the next 4 years, with a Council of State in charge of government. However, initially the army under Oliver Cromwell also had a lot of influence over the political nation at this time, playing a key role in the Scottish and Irish campaigns. Radical groups such as the Levellers were not granted as much power or influence as they had expected.
However, the Rump started to become a conservative authority. They did not respond to any of the constitutional, wholesale or religious reforms that were requested for by several radical groups and the army. Cromwell also believed the Rump was planning to retain all power indefinitely long-term without plans to allow the army to share it. This angered Cromwell, and so he entered the Rump Parliament and ordered members to leave. With the Rump dissolved, who would hold the power now?
To replace the Rump, the Parliament of Saints was formed. Cromwell initially intended for it to be an assembly that contributed to the form of the new constitution, so the army held most of the power, but it declared itself to have parliamentary privileges. It was mainly made up of minor gentry and JPS and had significant power. However, many were later removed, replaced with more radical lower-class civilians who pushed the law against tithes. With radicals gaining power, moderates went to Cromwell asking for Parliament to be dissolved, handing back power to Cromwell.
After the instrument of government was passed in 1653, this signified the start of the Protectorate and a shift in power. A majority of power was held by Cromwell as head of state, however this power was reduced by the role of Parliament and the Council of State in issues such as war and the choosing of council members. Power appeared more balanced as a result, but at the time of the First Protectorate, Cromwell held most of the power, which faced increasing opposition from Republicans.
England was divided into 11 areas during the rule of the Major Generals, creating a shift in power amongst the people. It was unpopular amongst the gentry and political nation who were being ordered by army generals lower on the social order. The Major Generals' role of preventing rebellion, taxing royalists and making religious reformation gave them power over the political nation, as some generals evoked fear. The role of the military in the state had greatly increased, and this worried the government.
After the end to the Major Generals experiment, it was clear from the second session that Cromwell had increasing influence and power over the Commonwealth. So much so that he was offered the crown. Although he declined, the humble petition that followed in 1657 meant Cromwell could choose his successor, a privilege previously held by the monarch. Although there weren't any fundamental changes to power in the Protectorate, it was clear members of Parliament were beginning to think about returning to the old constitution.
On the 3rd of September 1658, Oliver Cromwell died and chose his son Richard to succeed him as Lord Protector. Richard had little experience prior to his succession, and had only just been involved in the council a few months before his father's death. This was a turning point in the change of power, from an experienced leader to an unknown civilian.